Hi, for this video what we're going to do is we're going to solve another absolute value equation. In this absolute value equation, the absolute value is not alone. So before you start this, you must isolate the absolute value by itself. Because remember that you're looking for the absolute value of some number minus 10 that gives you an output of -5. So the first goal in an absolute value equation is to make sure that your absolute value is alone on one side. So with this, we would say that x plus 2 equals, and in order to get this by itself, what we have to do is move this -10 to the opposite side. When we change sides, we change signs. So the opposite of subtracting 10 is adding 10. And -5 plus 10 is 5. Now what we're doing, if you recall, we are looking for the two values that have a distance of 5 from 0. So I can go 5 to the right would give me 5 from 0, or I can go 5 to the left, which would give me -5. So either -5 or +5, those values that give me that inside of this equation, would make this statement true. So once you get to the absolute value being by itself, you must then set up your two equations. So our first equation would just be the equation x plus 2 equals 5. The other option, remember, is that -5 is also 5 places from 0. And since we're finding absolute value, we're looking for the values that are 5 places from 0. So x plus 2 could also equal -5. We would then solve both of these equations, so this is a very simple equation to solve. So we end up with our first solution is x equals 3. The second solution is x equals -7. The biggest mistake I see in absolute value equations is a lot of students will solve for the first one, and then they'll just say that it's plus or minus 3. So make sure that you don't make that mistake, that you realize that it's whatever's inside has to equal 5, or whatever's inside has to equal the opposite of it. As always, you want to make sure that you check to see that it works. So we're going to go back to the original equation. So we're going to come back up here to this equation, and we're going to plug in both values. So I would do 3 plus 2 minus 10, when we're asking ourselves, does that equal -5? This right here gives me the absolute value of 5, and the absolute value of 5 is 5, and 5 minus 10 does equal -5, so we know that this does work. So that's our first answer. We would do the same thing with the other one. We would do -7 plus 2 minus 10, and we're asking, does that equal -5? For this one, remember that it does give us -5. And -5, if I take the absolute value of it, because -5 is also 5 places from 0, we really end up with 5 minus 10 equals -5. And that also works. So we can see that both of our solutions do work in our original equation. And if it's a requirement, remember that you can write this in set notation. So if you wanted to write this in set notation, you would just say it's the set of all numbers -7 and 3 that would make this equation true. As always, thanks for watching. Please make sure that you continue to check out all of my other video content, and if there's any suggestions or topics that you need covered, please just let me know.